Hello everyone. I wanted to share with you guys my Sambuk build that I've been having a lot of success in PvP with. As you'll see in this clip, we're able to hit enemies from an extremely long distance, and when we turn and start shooting at this other ship, you'll see just how much burst damage we have. So this first big hit is actually from an NPC and me hitting him at the same time, but after that we get most of the combo off here, and he almost sinks. If we would have got the ablaze effect on him, I think he would have already sank right here. I'm not going to include the entire fight at the beginning of this video because it's pretty long, but I will put the rest of it at the end, and I'll include some PvE clips as well. In the fight, we sink him 3 times, and we sink that brig 1 more time, and the other Sambuk actually ends up sinking us as well once. So it was a pretty fun fight. But before we get into the build, I just wanted to mention real quick, just real briefly, I wanted to talk about builds and PvP. I've been seeing a lot of negative posts on Reddit advocating against PvP in this game, and I just really don't understand why. The end game pretty much seems to be built around it, at least the optional part of it. But the PvP in this game is fun, and only less than half of the in-game content is really centered around it, and it's optional. If you don't want to do it, then just don't participate. I'll just never really understand why some people just hate PvP so much and can't just allow these systems to be in game. Like when I played Fallout 76, if I went on Reddit and even mentioned PvP, I was guaranteed to get negative karma because some of the fan base in that game just hate PvP. They're just so hateful towards anyone who talks about it. But also just real quick about builds. I've seen some videos that almost seem to be advocating against build diversity, which, trust me, you want build diversity in an MMO. I've played a lot of MMOs, but these videos just seem to say things like certain weapons are bad and you should never use them, and the whole vibe of the video just seems angry, and like they're saying you have to play a certain way or you're playing the game wrong. But play the game however you want. Video games are meant to be fun, so play the game the way that brings you joy, and if the game doesn't bring you joy at all, then quit playing. Simple as that. Maybe find something that you like more. But anyways, I'm sorry about that rant. We'll just get into the build here. My ship, Long Richard II, is a Sambuk. We chose the Sambuk for the Scorched ability, which deals 5,000 burning damage when you apply the Ablaze effect to an enemy ship. The Ablaze effect will also be applied to any enemy within 150 meters, and we have bonus damage, 50% damage, versus ships that are on fire. So we use this 5,000 extra burst damage in conjunction with the Skurlock Long 9s, which deals 7,000 damage after the Torn Sails effect is applied. So with these two abilities constantly being applied, we are getting a ton of extra burst damage on top of the damage we are already dealing. And our enemies have to be very selective about how they use their restoration kits, because we will be applying these effects much more frequently than 45 seconds, which is how long the cooldown is on restoration kits. So the long guns have been getting some hate, but I really think their place is in PvP. I mean, if you just think about it, at the range that we are fighting, regular and demi cannons can't even hit us. And bombards, it's hard to hit at that range, and unless they're running the right furniture, we usually have enough time to just avoid them. As an added bonus, right now the PvP meta is to run the furniture that heals you when you do crew attacks. So if they can't even get within range to use the crew attacks on us, then they're not getting those heals that they're usually relying on. So on the front and the rear, we're going to be rocking the Skurlock Long 9s, which are going to do a base damage of 2,904, have a 9-second base reload time, which is going to be buffed by some of our furniture. And then the range is going to be 1,000 meters, which I believe is the longest in the game. Bombards have a 550, which they can hit that far, but, you know, as I was saying, it's pretty easy to avoid when they're trying to hit from that far. Ballista has 900. It can equal the same distance as this. I believe there's one that has 1,000 meter range, and then if you full draw them, they shoot further. But just as a base range, the Just as a base range, the long guns have the highest range. We also get the Mass Breaker perk, which we've talked about, the Piercing 3, which is 30 damage to piercing damage, and we get 100% increased damage to weak points. Tearing 2, which increases our damage when hitting sails, and so our damage per shot is 2,234 plus the 670 piercing damage, and we got a 250% bonus to weak damage points, a 402 meter per second projectile speed, which is not base, it is buffed by our furniture. And then on the sides, we are going to be rocking the Fire Long 3s. Now, these are basically exactly the same as the Skurlocks. They just don't get the Mask Breaker. They instead apply Burning. So you're going to get Piercing 2, which gives us 75% damage to weak points and 20%. The stats are a little bit lower on this gun, but they still hit really, really hard. We're also going to get Burning 1, adds 10% of damage as burning damage. So we're getting 2,125 damage plus 212 fire damage and 425 piercing damage. Our weak points, we're getting 225% damage to weak points and again 402 meters per second. Projectile speed, which again is buffed by our furniture. We'll cover that in just a moment. And for our auxiliary weapon, we are going to be rocking, I'm not even going to try and pronounce it, I believe it's Le Fleur, but I'm just going to call it the Lepest mortar for the rest of the video. So on the Lepest mortar, you really want to do this if possible. You can use the Leopold 3s, but Lepest is going to outdamage it, especially if you use it at the end of our little combo that we use here with this build. So this thing does 14,145 base damage, has a 20-second reload time, 600 meter range, and a 20-second fire rate. You also have the Putrefying perk, which releases toxic fumes for a short period upon impact, dealing damage and sapping crew stamina. Damage from toxic fumes cannot be blocked by bracing. So it hits through brace and it sucks their stamina, so it's just super strong in PvP. It's OP. It also adds 15% explosive damage and a 50-meter blast radius, so just AoE damage. We're getting 12,300 damage per shot plus 1,845 explosive damage. Our weak point damage is 100%, blast radius 50 meters, and projectile speed is 1 meter per second. So ideally what we want to try and do is hit them with this combo where we set them ablaze so we get the 5,000 damage from the Scorched effect. Then we knock their sails so we get the 7,000 damage from the Mask Breaker effect, and they're immobilized. And when they're immobilized, then we want to hit them with the Lepest mortar, which then hits them with 14,000 damage from the Lepest mortar, and it saps their stamina and does damage over time from the noxious fumes. So trying to get the combo off, combined with the fact that we're using the Royal Custodian and basic health kits, makes this build have a pretty high skill cap, because there's just so much that you have to pay attention to. But we'll talk more about those health kits and whatnot in a minute. So we are running the Royal Custodian, which I think is the best armor for PvP right now because it has a 12-second uptime. So if we're using the repair kit 1s and their 20-second cooldown, that means we only have an 8-second downtime where we need to be focused on, not taking damage, just playing a little bit safer there for 8 seconds. And with our food buffing our repair kit efficiency, the repair kit 1s actually aren't too bad as a heal either. But we'll get into the food here in just a minute. So the Royal Custodian does provide 24% explosive damage, which is really good because a lot of people are rocking the bombards, and it'll also help us with the damage from the mortars. A lot of people are rocking mortars as well. Most people are rocking bombards and mortars, it seems like. Flooding and fire, not super important right now, but they may become more important in the future as people start to try and spec out in those. I think everybody's like kind of focused on piercing and explosive right now. Tearing's kind of getting more attention. More people are starting to pay attention to tearing damage because it can be really effective in PvP. But this refortify is the big thing. That's what we want. There's a little emblem that shows underneath your health bar whenever you pop a health kit, and you'll see when that runs down, you got 8 seconds and you need to pop another health kit. Maintaining this can be really difficult, but the more you practice, the better you'll get at it, and it'll increase your survivability by a ton. 35% additional armor. It makes this to where it can compete with the snow and the brig, which most people are rocking. So our major furniture piece is the megaphone, which you can switch out for the scoping station if you would like, or even the gunner's quadrant. But I think you'll be surprised how high your reload speed can get with the megaphone. I know I was. The effect actually works no matter what cannon you are using on your ship or what enemy you're hitting if you're hitting multiple targets. As long as you are consecutively landing shots without missing, the speed increases. It resets if you miss or if you don't hit anything for 10 seconds. What you absolutely don't want to use is munitions factory or any furniture that increases the duration of the status effects. Because the sooner they cleanse it, the sooner we can reapply it and get that burst damage from Scorched or Mast Breaker. So for our first piece of minor furniture, we are using double planked hull to give us just a little bit more survivability. It only adds 1,750 hull health to our ship, which isn't a lot, but that plus the high uptime on fortified helps a lot and makes us a lot more survivable. Next, we are using volatile fuel, which increases the charge rate of the ablaze effect on enemy ships. So that just helps us get that 5k slap from the Scorched ability more often, and the dot damage from ablaze is nice too, but good players will just cleanse that with the resto kit. Next, we're using the long gun grinder. Now you can switch this out for something else if you like, but it helps a ton with not having to lead your shots as much, and I feel like it helps me land a lot more shots. Finally, we have the long gun works, which is just a big buff to our overall damage. Also, just in case anybody's wondering what kind of ship set I'm using, I'm just using the Crow Print set. That's it, just flat out Crow Print set. Oh yeah, the mass figurehead, is the Blind Justice figurehead. And currently I am using the Tiger's Majesty, but I think that this looks better. And this one looks the best, I think, but I don't know. That's just me. So before we get into the showcase, real quick, I just wanted to show the food that we are running. It's the Tandragazi. This food synchronizes really well with the Royal Custodian armor because it will buff our basic repair kit by 15%, which makes us surprisingly survivable as long as we do a good job of remembering to pop the repair kit every time it comes off cooldown. Like, you gotta pay attention, and as soon as it's available, hit it anytime you're in combat, especially with other players. You will also need a ton of these basic repair kits, but luckily they aren't too hard to stock up on. I will release a video very soon on my farming method for these and grilled food for stamina regen, so stay tuned for that. Alright, so we're going to start this showcase off right here where that brig got sank. We're going to do it at 2x speed. This was the first big PvP fight, the first PvP fight I got into with this build. And so I did make a lot of mistakes, and I'll talk about those mistakes as they happen so that hopefully it'll help you guys to not make so many of them when you first start trying out this build. So we're about to get the sails knocked here. You can see I'm trying to get the ablaze effect up because I really want to get the ablaze effect, but I just gave up right there, knocked the sails, and I'm going to hit the Lepest. And we got really close, man. If I could have just got that ablaze, he'd have been down right there. So we gotta basically reset, and I should have popped a repair kit here. That's first mistake. Mistake number one. I need my fortify is not up. My repair kit's ready, but I'm not popping it, and so I'm just taking unnecessary damage. There we go. Finally popped it. Got my fortify. Going in, putting in a lot of damage. He healed it. He's trying to close the gap here to try and get crew attacks off, but I'm trying as hard as I can to keep him from getting it by just knocking the sails. Got the knock on the sails, and I should have done the Lepest. Didn't hit it. Another mistake. So I believe this is where, yep, this is where I got sunk at first. So he sank me first, and then I come back and sink him 3 times after that. So this, I stopped recording because I thought the fight was going to be over. This was after I'd sank him after I sank him once. I respawned and was able to get back in the fight. I thought it was over, so I'd stopped recording, but I respawned after I killed him the first time. Just sank him a second time. And it was easy peasy because I'd gotten used to the build. We're having no issues. About to knock the sails on this NPC. Look how much damage it does to the NPCs. It's crazy how much it does to the NPCs. He tries it again. I can't believe he actually respawned at sea and didn't go to port here, especially because the brig, boom, just picked it up. The brig picked up the map there. Or was this a chest? I can't remember if this was a chest or map. I think it was a chest that I stole from a guy, actually. And, I mean, we are just working him here. It's hard to tell what's going on completely at the 2x speed, but, I mean, we're maintaining really, really well. I'm doing a pretty good job here of getting my repair kits going. It's available now. Popped it immediately. And we're just working. He's actually did a pretty good job of putting in damage there that time. But I look at the map here and I realize that the map's about to arrive at port. And so I pretty much just give up at this point, and I do start heading that way, but I eventually just turn away and I'm like, no, this isn't gonna happen. Sorry about my cat meowing there, guys. He just rolled up and just decided he was gonna meow a ton of times while I'm recording. But anyways, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the build, be sure and like and subscribe. I've got an even more off the wall, crazier build coming up. I haven't tested any of it, so I don't know how crazy it's gonna actually be, but hopefully it works really well. I think it's gonna. We'll see what happens. I've got plenty of build ideas in the works. So again, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.